Hello, everybody. This is Luther Palmer, and welcome to One Episode Stand, a podcast where Jobina Scott and I help you figure out what new shows to watch.
Or maybe reconsider a show you've recently seen. For each and every podcast episode that we watch, we'll discuss the series premiere of a brand new television show. Then, like the Rolling Stones we are, we're going to move on to the next show.
We love them and leave them. We smash and dash. Everyone's out here having one night stands, and we're having one episode stands, but we do it for you, the listeners.
And we try our best not to spoil anything, but I'm telling you right now, we don't make any promises. We'll try really, really hard, though. So, Luther, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling fresh. I'm feeling excited. I'm ready to embrace the world. All the things.
You are fully revived, excited.
I don't even know what I'm revived from, but I'm revived. I don't do coffee, but I feel like I had a tall glass of double shot mochaccino caramel frat, whatever it's called.
You're up.
Do you do Starbucks? Are you a Starbucks fan?
I am not a Starbucks fan in the store. I actually have this iced coffee drink that I make at home with Starbucks coffee.
Oh,
so I buy the Starbucks coffee at the grocery store because I like iced coffee. I don't really like hot coffee that much.
Okay.
So I buy the
you do
Starbucks.
Live in the South, so yeah, it's already hot outside.
Right. So I buy the Starbucks in the store. I put a little bit of their flavored creamer, but then I put my protein drink. I have like an already liquid protein drink in there. So I'm drinking the coffee. It tastes like an iced coffee, but I'm getting 16 grams of protein.
I don't know that I know anyone who puts protein in their coffee. Okay.
I learned this from a friend at work, and it's already liquid, so it's like a vanilla drink. And you just drop that right in the coffee, and you've got a high protein iced coffee.
Now, are you a bodybuilder or a weightlifter?
You already know. The answer is no.
Because that's a lot of protein.
It's a lot of protein. However, I am just a perimenopausal woman trying not to be fat.
What does perimenopausal mean?
That is before menopause. So it's like before you get there, you're going to experience some very unwanted symptoms.
Oh, really?
And one of them is like persistent weight gain that you just can't get rid of. So I follow a lot of people on Instagram who have lots of advice. And one of them is that you eat protein. I'm trying to remember the formula. It's like a certain, like something times the goal weight that you have, and that's like the number of grams of protein you need a day, but it's really high. It's like 90 grams of protein. 90
grams of protein? Seriously?
Yes, that's what I need in order to not continue to increase in size every day.
Speaking of perimenopausal, today's show.
That was a very good transition.
We're discussing a show called The Serpent Queen.
Yeah, so The Serpent Queen is on Starz. And let me just tell you, it took me a minute to get on there. I was on Prime. I had to do like a free 90-day or whatever trial just to get it. But it's on Starz. It's 30 minutes.
See, I thought it was just on Prime. I just loaded it up on Prime.
Yeah, somehow I didn't have this. Whatever, Starz wasn't a part of my Prime.
Oh.
Yeah, so
I'm paying for Starz that I didn't know about. You've already paid for it,
and now it's just coming out of your account on a regular basis.
Damn it.
You didn't even know it. Yeah, so I had to do the free trial, but I got it. I watched the 30-minute drama. This is set in France, circa the 1500s, right?
But what did you know about the show before we picked it for this episode? Because it's historical too, right? So there's an actual queen. She existed as a person. Yes. Had you ever heard of her?
I had not heard of her, and I will tell you, I had not heard of anything about this show, and for me to watch it was a significant stretch because I don't like period pieces.
Really?
I hate them. Like I was like a late adopter to Bridgerton because I just don't like it. I don't like it.
I mean, Bridgerton, Downton Abbey, all those shows. You didn't do any of those shows?
I got into Bridgerton, but only like after the first wave of people were super excited about it. I missed the whole first season because I don't like period pieces. I just don't like them.
It's just so funny because I had some friends dress up as Bridgerton people for Halloween.
Okay, that was
a
very,
big,
very clever
popular
of them.
thing this year. I had not heard of this queen either. I've obviously heard of France, the country.
You're familiar with France,
but I hadn't heard of her. But one of the reasons that I like, I'm not gonna say I like period pieces, but one of the reasons I like this show and other shows like it is that they are historical, and I do get to go and find and learn about history. So, and we'll talk about some of that in the show. Okay, let's talk about what the show was about.
So, Luther, this show for me is about what makes Catherine. Like, how did she evolve to this queen where, everyone is terrified of her?
Yeah.
How did she get there? So I feel like in this first episode, you get a little bit of backstory that's explaining why she is the way that she is.
Yeah. So the setup of the show is she is an older woman. She is perimenopausal.
I think she's postmenopausal.
I learned that she had 10 kids. Speaking of menopause, yes, she had 10 kids. So she's older. She's had all her kids. And I think she's befriending this other young woman. And she's it's actually a young black woman, by the way.
Yes.
And she's telling this young person her story. So it's like a mix of the present day, she's telling the story, and then flashbacks. So that's sort of
Well, and she's saying that she sees herself in this young woman. So why did she select this particular young woman who, by the way, in the show, her name is It. Like, she doesn't even get called a name. They call her It.
Yeah, that was weird.
So she's clearly the lowest on the totem pole.
Right.
And this queen is saying, I was much like you.
Right.
And I want to imbue you with my story.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about how the show looks, sounds, and feels, because the previews has rock and roll music.
Yes, it's very
and the
strange.
intro has rock and roll, and they're talking in English. They're in France, right? So they're speaking in French. They're supposed to be in France, but I'm okay with that. But they're also talking in a modern day voice. So like their curse words are very modern in their usage.
Right, they don't have any accent.
There's no hither, thou, goeth. There's not that tone. It's very modern.
Yes. And what's interesting is Bridgerton does the same thing. Like, I feel like this is in some ways a knockoff of like Bridgerton. They'll be at a dance and they're playing it in classical music, but it'll be like a Beyonce song.
Oh.
So I feel like they're doing something similar with this.
See, I watched the first half of the first episode of Bridgerton.
Stop.
And then I realized it's not for me. This is not a show that is made for a man of a certain age.
Yeah, it was.
The show was about kids, right?
Yeah.
But
I think it was made for women mostly.
Right.
It's all
I guess there's a guy in the show that's really hot, and that didn't appeal to me.
Oh my goodness. I'm curious to know what characters you want to see more of, or even things that you want to see more of in the show.
I said before, I want to see history. Like, I like that part of it. I got my Google machine out. I'm Googling all the things. Did you pick up on how they said, so in one of the flashbacks, she's being prepared to marry a French prince.
Yes.
But then they say to her, the French people don't have the fork yet. Did you hear that?
Yes. They're like, I don't know what they're doing over there. Maybe they're eating with their hands.
Right. So I, of course, Googled, wait a minute, like, when was the fork invented? Because this is the 1500s. When did it become a thing? And here's what I got. First of all, you will never guess what country the fork was invented. I could give you all day. It was invented in China.
What? Wait a minute.
I know. Yeah.
In China.
The first fork, unfortunately, were made of bones.
No.
But it is a historical fact that Catherine did bring forks from
China.
I mean, I guess she was in. No. She was in. Where was she?
From Italy.
She was in Italy.
She's Italian.
Right.
Yeah.
She's Italian. So I guess the Italians had gotten it from the Byzantium, and then Italians took it to France. And this is a known historical fact.
But here's what I want to know. Now that you have revealed to me that the fork was invented in China, my mind immediately goes to chopsticks.
Yeah.
Do you
what happened?
know how to? Right, they made it for us, and then they were like, "We're not eating with that thing." But do you know how to use chopsticks to eat?
Yes. So my mother felt like she wanted us to be cultured. So we would get Chinese food and she would make us practice how to use chopsticks. So I would say I always feel like I'm proficient until I'm sitting next to someone who's an actual Chinese person who's way more proficient than I am. But I can get the job done. I can eat.
You can get it in.
Yeah, yeah.
I learned how to use chopsticks as an adult. Like when I moved away from home and after I graduated from college, I had a friend who taught me how to use chopsticks, and I really wanted to learn it because I too perceived it to be a cultured piece. Now I feel like I can't eat any Asian style food that requires chopsticks without chopsticks.
Oh yeah, you have to.
I have to.
Right.
But I would say how I know I am not like as proficient as the most proficient person is when I get down to like the last little pieces of rice. I can't do it. I'm like, I got to get a fork in there.
Well, let me tell you the secret. I'm going to tell you the secret. And I learned this by eating I had a Chinese coworker at my first job out of college. The secret is you just turn the bowl and just pour it into your mouth like cereal. They're
not messing with the chopsticks at that point.
Yeah, they're not getting all into the grains of rice with a chopstick. And they use the chopstick like a shovel, and they just shovel it into their mouth.
See,
this
problem solved.
American manners and proper eating, they're not into any of that stuff.
That. You want to eat the rice, pour it in your mouth.
Exactly. But the other countries, we're taking a deep dive into forks, which is why I love the show. But the other countries had spoons, and they actually had pointy knives, so they could still pick up things. But it wasn't a multi-pronged thing. What else did you want to see?
So here's what's interesting. Even though I said I don't like period pieces, what I want to see is more of the fashion.
Oh,
so the dress.
That's a whole part of the period thing.
I don't want to hear anything about the history. I just want to see the dresses. So the dress that she is wearing when it comes into her room is so spectacular. Like she's got this headpiece that looks like serpents going around her bun. She's got this beautifully high collared lace black thing that she looks phenomenal. And the piece is so beautiful. I can only imagine what the costume design people went through to make it, but I want to see more of the fashion of the era.
Okay. So sex sells. Who is having sex in this show?
Well, Catherine is having it for the first time.
Right, yes.
And Luther, you're talking about disturbing.
Right.
When first you see like the family, the Pope, everybody, the king, everyone's sitting around, and then you realize they're sitting around the marriage bed. The marriage bed.
Well, first, we got to go back because first they had to check her hymen.
When I tell, oh my God. I mean, and just bend her over a chair and went at the exam.
Yeah.
Like just, let's get in there. Let's make sure she's
He
intact.
didn't wash his hands.
No, he did not.
I don't know when washing hands became a thing. I don't think they had germ theory back in the 1500s.
No, they didn't know anything about that. He just went in, made sure she was intact, which was so humiliating. I mean, she took it like a champ, but there's just no way.
Right. So then fast forward to the marital bed. And I've seen other shows where there'll be a priest in there, or there'll be the mother of the groom or something.
Right, the mother and the groom is under the bed, but not the full audience.
There were 20 people.
Yes, and they were like, "Let's see it. Let's get something good in.
Let the joust begin." And then they had to have sex. That was
and they're super awkward, right? They're laying there next to each other, like, okay, who's gonna start this? It's horrifying.
So let me ask you this: how many people were in your bedroom on your marital night?
2. That's it.
Your parents, his parents,
no.
They weren't. Did they check your hymen though?
All behind. There was no checking.
But that's not even a thing. That whole hymen thing. And I can only imagine how many women. So your hymen can break through non-sexual activity.
Sex. Exactly.
And I can only imagine how many women who were discarded because their hymen was broken. and they weren't believed. I mean, it was so... The whole purity culture thing is ridiculous. Second, the way they were checking for purity was itself ridiculous.
Was heinous. I did not enjoy those scenes at all.
But this was also one of those King's Court type shows where there's backstabbing and there's affairs all throughout the, so part of the show is who's having sex with who. And there's a twist at the end of episode 1 about what person's having sex with another person. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of a general sexuality going throughout the show.
Right.
What social commentary or broader themes came up for you during the show?
Well, I mean, we've been talking about it. I think it's like the treatment of women as property and things during this time period. Like, I could not believe some of the things that happened to her. And she was a woman of, she had standing in society. I mean, we didn't know it in the beginning because she was raised in an orphanage, but her parents were influential. She was commandeered by her uncle, who was the Pope, and she still was subjected to, I think, inhumane treatment because she was a woman.
I think you're right. This show is about womanhood and how women existed in that period of time. When you watch the show, what scene bothered you the most?
There's so many because she was, of course, being like tied to a horse and drugged to the Pope.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Purchased, essentially. Mm-hmm. He gave them a finder's fee for having discovered her and brought her out. Mm-hmm. But I would say the checking for her being intact, both the premise and the practice were the most...
It's horrible.
It was the most horrible to me.
Mm-hmm. That was bad. I mean, I was embarrassed. As a man, I can say that was an embarrassing moment.
Shame on us, right?
But I'm not, there's this whole movement by men that we don't want to apologize for the past and we don't want to apologize for the world that exists, but I'm sorry that we did that.
Yeah, that was terrible. I accept your apology.
It is so bad.
It was bad.
One of the other things that came up, like you said, she, in her older age, everyone was afraid of her. And I guess I feel like this is how we treat women who are go-getters.
Who are powerful, exactly.
Like, if a man does what she does, everyone loves him, they cheer him on.
They laud and
He's the greatest thing ever.
Yes.
But she made it very clear early in the episode, she decided, I'm going to make my own destiny. And this is how we still treat women who are, quote unquote, aggressive in the workplace.
Yes, here we are in 2022, and we're caricaturizing them, and we're putting them in a box. We're saying that their behavior is inappropriate, and yet, to your point, men are not only, it's okay, but it's applauded.
Right. Okay, we're going to do something new. I'm a scientist by trade, and as I watch all these shows, I'm always thinking about the connection to science. And you're an educator, and I'm sure you're viewing the shows through this educational lens.
Yes.
So we're going to touch on some of the things that we thought through as we're watching the show. So this is not a spoiler because it happens early on. Both of her parents die of syphilis.
Yes.
And which is terrible. But, syphilis now is easily curable with penicillin. Mm-hmm. But it made me think about the Tuskegee syphilis experiment.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot of people think that the government gave people syphilis, but this wasn't the case. The government just withheld treatment of syphilis.
Okay,
so,
I did not know that.
Yeah. So they found all these men who had syphilis, and they gave some of them penicillin, and they gave the others, like a sugar pill.
Wow.
Just so they could study how syphilis plays out.
Right.
But they told all the men they were treating them.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was just a horrible...
The real infraction on their human rights was not having been given syphilis by the government.
Right.
It was that they were being put into a scientific study without their knowledge.
Right. And syphilis is such a horrible disease. It could have been cured. We could have given them penicillin.
And they would have been fine.
Right. But the Tuskegee syphilis experiment lasted for 40 years.
Stop it.
It went from the 30s to the 70s.
My God.
Think about how many men struggled with syphilis and could have gotten cured but didn't. think about how many men pass syphilis on.
Exactly. How many they infected. Yes,
terrible.
Unwittingly.
So fast forward to 2020, of course, the government's now saying, take the vaccine. And the black community has an understandable mistrust of the federal government when it comes to public health.
Yep. And as a result, many, many black people would not get it.
Yeah. That's my science nugget.
Okay, so my education nugget here. I started thinking about women's history and how I never took a women's history class. Like, I never did that in college, and it made me regret it. I wish that I had an opportunity to really understand women, their sort of social issues, their triumphs, their trials over history. Did I even have that opportunity in college? Like, I don't think that was a class that was available to me. And so I just started thinking about how we teach young women and girls about the history of women globally and in this country and what that means for them, and just realizing that I didn't have those opportunities, or at least I didn't avail myself to them.
When I was in grad school, me and some of my friends used to joke that we should have become women's studies majors because
that's where all the girls were.
That's where all the women were. See, I was in engineering, so I'm in class with a bunch of dudes every day.
Bunch of men.
If I had done a women's studies graduate degree, maybe I would have been more successful with the ladies. And that's my educational nugget for the show.
Thank you for adding to it.
Okay, so here's the question. Are you going to keep watching, or was it a one-episode stand?
This is my first one-episode stand.
Oh, really?
I think it's a no for me. I was entertained.
Okay.
For the full first episode,
right,
but it's a period piece. I don't think they gave me enough. I'm gonna pass on this one.
I'm going to keep watching.
You are.
I think, because it goes fast. It's witty, I think, in parts. Mm-hmm. And the history part, like I dug a full deep dive on the Byzantine, and that became Constantinople, and that became modern day Istanbul. I was all in on the history. So I appreciate that. So I'm definitely going to watch more. Okay, I think that's all we got.
That's it.
Thank you all for listening to One Episode Stand. If you enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe to the podcast to be alerted when new episodes drop. If you're listening on iTunes, please give us a rating. The theme music is Freedom by Paradox Hip Hop. And we'll be back next time with another series premiere. Jobina, let's end on this. Every story has a moral. What was the moral of this episode?
Don't be a woman in the 1500s. If you can help it. That's the moral.
That's like a comedian, this black comedian said, someone had asked him if he had a time machine, when would you go? And he said, not the past.
Right, to the future. I mean, what are you talking about?
Like, women, for even longer than black people have a long history of being oppressed. Women have a longer history.
Even longer.
And going back in time is a very perilous choice.
It's not advisable.
All right, everybody. Take care.
Bye, everybody.